This week, David, something that I think is really rather cute and a little bit retro, and that is the Suzuki Jimny. It's a peach. In short, it is a peach. Now, when I first got in and drove it, that first few kilometres, God, I thought it was awful. The steering, at best, I thought was approximate. The ride was a little too bouncy for my liking. However, what happened was, I fell in love with it. I took it out to Picton, a couple of 100-kilometre round trip, and by the time I got home, I was absolutely in love. It is fabulous. And I'll tell you why. It's got a long history of being the affordable, four-wheel drive, full off-roading car. And it comes with LED lights that have high beam assist, headlight washers, which is something you only get on a much more expensive car. And also, the look includes these 15-inch wheels, which give the impression, although it's only a 15-inch wheel, of being something much bigger because the wheels have tyres that are so tall. And with those tall tyres comes slightly wayward handling.
Well, without low profile, but it's short wheelbase and pitches and tosses a bit. If you added low profile with some thumping into it, I think that would compromise your enjoyment.
It's a little bit fun. It's got 4 seats. We'll look at those from around the back. It's got this little plastic cover over the gubbins just to make it look a little bit neater. But essentially, you can see this has never been used. This is something that you need, in my view, if you're going properly off-road. You need a spare tyre, not a repair kit or a temporary spare of any kind. The door opens like so, barn door style, and it opens quite wide. But you can see, with our camera bag in the back, that the space here with the seat up is not hugely generous. With the seats down, there's a little bit of a gap just here, but that's actually quite good. It means you can put a couple of Coles bags in there and they won't slide around. There's the seat belts for the rear seats, but there's also a rear power point so that you can put a little fridge in here or something along those lines. There's not a whole lot in the way of leg room. However, I imagine you could still fit in there for short trips. This is a particular colour, David. This, we think, is kinetic yellow because it certainly doesn't look like forest green. To me, I'd just call it lemon.
I think there have been some other more derogatory terms to it as well.
Up above is the black roof, topped by this rather cute little flexible aerial. And that's just the ticket for a little bit of light off-roading. The inside, David, I think looks absolutely brilliant. It's got power steering. It's got a dash that's nice and easy to use. It's easy to operate. And of course, the only thing we had trouble with was trying to adjust the clock, which, to be honest with you, the user guide wasn't immediately helpful with. There's also a clock over here in the main system, because look at this, wacky-do, it's got CarPlay. You can go back to the car's system by simply pressing the home button, but this 7-inch screen, which has one of your pet hates, the software volume control, is divided clearly into 4 areas, one of which is radio, one of which is your phone, and you can keep going back to it, one of which is the satellite navigation. So this has built-in satellite navigation for $23,990, which I think is extraordinary, and it's fairly quick to respond, but of course I'm just going to leave it in CarPlay. The other thing it's got is a single zone climate control. Now, some much more expensive cars than this, David, don't have climate control. Below that, we've got some buttons here. Now, oddly, David, this is your window button. Window button left, window button right. Only one of them's automatic. Lousy bastards. Wouldn't have killed them and make them both automatic. Downhill descent control and traction control off, which you're going to need in some off-road scenarios, I would imagine.
Yep.
Also, Jimny has wheel-mounted audio controls, wheel-mounted cruise controls, and some extra buttons down here for answering the phone and for voice control. I love the detailing in the dash, the little hex bolt detail, whether or not that's real, who knows. And a little storage box down below which doubles as a grab handle. Look, I can get my hand right in that. You can see the windscreen too has quite an angle on it, and what that means is the interior space from the top of the windscreen to the top of my head is more than in some full-size family cars. The other thing is a 5-speed manual or a 4-speed automatic, which I alluded to outside, I think is a cog or two short of what I would like. And then back here, the 4-wheel drive controls. So this gives you 2 high, 4 high, and 4 low. And that's for getting you out of some of those trickier rock and sand type situations. Perhaps a little bit of mud on the way to your bucolic country pile. Not likely to ever bother any of us. Behind that, we've got a couple of cup holders. You can see how far back these are. To be honest with you, I don't think I'd want to reach back too far to get my coffee out, because I could see that going wrong. But anyway, it is there, and both rows can access them. The thing that I noticed about the manual and the clutch is that it is, until you get used to it, a little bit tricky. Having said that though, this 1.5 with a relatively small amount of power and torque, I think still does the job.
This is.
You've got to work the gears. You know, you've got to work it. You've got to work it. Now, what do you think of the ride? It is a little bouncy castle, isn't it?
Well, you've got a short wheelbase. It's going to pitch and toss a little bit. There's no question of that. It's certainly not an ambience of
But I don't
luxury.
like tossing, David. How do you find the gear changes?
I love it. It's chunky. There's no question. It's not quite as
Suits
tight.
us, we're chunky.
It's not quite as tight and throw as say an MX-5.
That's not like us, we're not tight. At all.
It's a case of, it's an old style in a way. You feel the gears, you know exactly where it is.
But I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think this is old school.
Yeah.
And I think it's all the better for it. It feels absolutely fab.
You're just waiting for me to stall, of course, aren't you?
Well, I'm hoping you don't, but if you do, I will chuckle and you won't live it down. Now, when you're taking off from lights, you do have to, as we say, work the gears. It does get a little bit raucous. It was very quiet at lower speeds, but at higher speeds, it does get a little loud, but not unpleasant.
Well, we're just going up onto a motorway here, just 90, 100. I nearly went for another gear.
Yeah, and that's what I feel like. Now, at 100, you're still doing, 3.2, something like that?
Yeah.
3.3.
I'm just a bit under 100 here because of the cars in front of me.
Now, when we hit those expansion joints in the freeway, there's, you can really feel it. But it's, again, not unpleasant. As I said, I took this out to Picton the other day, and I noticed that despite the fact that I was doing 3.3 RPMs, that I was still getting something like 6.9 litres per 100 kilometres, which I think is excellent. It's only got a 40 litre tank, so you're not going to be going too far even at 6.9 litres per 100 kilometres. But one thing that we are a little short of is active driver aids. So there's no blind spot monitoring, there's no active lane control, but there is lane warning. And so many of the driver aids that you've now come to expect aren't in here, but look, for $23,990, I don't think you can get a better off-roader. It does everything it says on the box and more.
The word off-roader there is, it's not sort of an off-roader, it is an absolute.
The other bonus, of course, although there's not a huge amount of luggage space, as we pointed out, we're in the back, there's quite a lot of headroom. Like, I've still got, 5 inches or so, probably 5 inches above your head as well, David. I think that's enough to be going on with, 5 inches. You'd really want to not hit the roof when you're going on your off-roading odyssey. That is it for this week. Our Suzuki Jimny, which I think is one of the best little four-wheel drives in the road, not just because it's excellent value, but it is terrific fun.
Immense fun and immense character, immense visible character, which is not just bubbly, it's got a little bit of edge to it.
And I think it also makes gentlemen of a certain age feel a little bit younger and a little bit daring. And I'd actually pick this colour. Bugger the baby poo comments. Meanwhile, if you've liked the film, hit like, leave a comment, but above all, just I think over there to subscribe.